You're listening to the only podcast for Texas AirHogs and American Association Baseball. This is Hog Heaven with your host, Tim Costello, and co-host, Zachary Lee. Welcome into Hog Heaven here on your AirHogs Broadcast Network. Take it away, Tim.
Welcome back into another exciting edition of Hog Heaven. Tim Costello joined this week with Angellee Vincent from Prairie Paws, which is one of the great organizations we have here in Grand Prairie. Angellee, appreciate you coming on the program here today.
Thank you for having us.
Looks like you brought a little guest there with you as well.
I did. This is Snuggles, and she is an 8-week-old Chihuahua mix, and she is currently available for adoption.
Well, there you go. If anyone is looking for a new little pupper, we've got a couple in the booth here for you today that you can take a look at. But Angellee, tell us, how did you get into this, right? Because there's probably a ton of people out there that think, man, I'd love to work with puppies every single day. Obviously, that's not all that you do, but how did you get to this point?
So I'm actually from Rhode Island, and I started when I was about 19 years old and by volunteering. And once I moved to Oklahoma, I continued volunteering there. And so when I ended up here in Grand Prairie, I started volunteering at Prairie Paws. That turned into fostering, which I had never done. And I would take the dogs to off-site adoption events. And then that transpired into becoming the event coordinator for the off-site adoption events once the position became available.
So you mentioned you were doing some foster work at some point for the animals. I noticed in the questionnaire you sent over, you have 7 dogs of your own as well. So I'm wondering how well that fostering went when you ended up with seven animals and a cat as well, if I read correctly.
Yes. So all of my animals are rescue animals. Probably about 4 of them were foster fails. But I've fostered probably well over 50 animals in the last 8 or 9 years.
That's fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about that process of fostering an animal, right? Because not a lot of people maybe have done something like that before, or they're afraid, I'm going to fall in love with this dog before I have to give it to somebody else. What's that process like?
So fostering an animal is basically like having an animal. When you go into it, you understand that you're making the commitment to that animal and not to keep them. If it happens, great. We're not upset about that. So some people are nervous to take on a full commitment of adoption. So they'll foster, and then once they start fostering, they realize, like, hey, I can do this, and they end up adopting. But for those who know, like, I cannot adopt whether they're moving or they're doing something in the future or it's just not in their plans, they can still help out by taking in an animal temporarily, housing them in their home, learning about them. That's the biggest thing. People want to know, hey, is this dog housebroken? Are they good with other animals? Are they good with your kids? Well, when they're in a foster home, we find all of that information out, and it makes them more adoptable, knowing that they've lived in a home, so people feel more secure in adopting them, I guess. So it's pretty great, but the biggest thing is a lot of people are like, I can't foster. It'll break my heart. You have to you have to weigh the odds versus your heart being broken or that animal not getting a chance at finding a home.
Sure.
And so when you think about it like that, you're like, okay, I can take a little bit of pain to know that animal, I saved that animal, it went to an amazing home, and now they're gonna have a great life because I was willing to get my heart broken a little bit. So.
And there's gotta be some satisfaction too, right? When you see a little girl, a 5-year-old girl getting her first puppy and that kind of excitement. Yeah, it stinks that you have to let go of the puppy, but now you know that thing's going to be loved and taken care of for the rest of its life.
Oh yeah, completely. And another thing too is the fostering kind of makes a different type of connection with the animal and with the future adopter. So I know a lot of fosters that actually are still in contact with the people who adopted the dog. It's not a mandatory, like, you have to stay in contact type thing, but a lot of the families that adopt the dog want to stay in touch with the fosters to be like, hey, don't worry, like, this is how he's doing, and they send them updates and family photos and all that stuff. So it's not like the dog leaves and you never know what happened to it or hear about them again, because a lot of these families stay in contact.
So there's tons of organizations out there, right? Like the SPCA or places where families can go and adopt a rescue dog. But Prairie Paws it's a little bit more involved, right? You guys do a little bit more than just say, hey, here's the dogs we have, come and get them.
Yeah, so we're not only an adoption center, we are actually the Grand Prairie Animal Services Department for the city of Grand Prairie. So when you need an animal control officer, or you find a stray dog or a hurt dog or any animal, actually a snake in your house, turtle on the side of the road, you can still call us. We're the same building. We're the same workers for both sides of it, and we will be able to help you in all aspects of animal services, not only adoptions.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I know several of our AirHogs season ticket holders are big animal lovers themselves. If people are wanting to get involved with you guys, it's obviously, you always need people up there to help, and time is necessary. But if someone doesn't necessarily have a ton of time to give, what are some of the things you guys are looking for that would make your life a little bit easier when it comes to taking care of some of these animals?
So if you can't adopt and you can't foster and you can't volunteer, we are always open and needing donations of old towels. They don't have to be new, brand new with tags or anything like that. They could be your old towels. You're about to buy new towels. Instead of throwing them out, you can donate them to us. Bed sheets, comforters, kids comforters, all of that. We use the blankets for the dogs, the sheets for our feral cat program. So it all will get used. The towels for cleaning, and we always need more. And then for the younger guys that can't volunteer yet, a lot of them like to maybe set up donation drives, whether through their families or at schools. So there's different ways like that you can still be involved and help us out, even if you cannot take an animal on yourself or have the time to come volunteer.
And if you are looking to get involved and actually do some volunteer work, what kind of things can people expect to do once they get down to Prairie Paws and get involved with everything?
So I just want to say, to volunteer, you have to be at least 14 years old. And from 14 to 16, you do need a parent or guardian with you. But after 16, you are old enough to volunteer on your own. Once you volunteer, you shadow our animal care technicians, who are the people that take care of our animals day in and day out, clean their kennels, do the adoption visits, all of that. So you kind of follow them around. They mentor you on how to handle the animals and what's appropriate and not appropriate. And then once you've done that kind of training with them, you're able to work with the animals by yourself, whether you like cats more, dogs more. And we are not just cat and dog based. So currently right now we have 2 bunnies up for adoption. We get guinea pigs, hamsters, we had rats a couple weeks ago. We get lizards, snakes, not as common, but we get a lot of the small furry guys that come in up for adoption. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone and what they're willing to do. And for those that want to help out but maybe are not comfortable working with the animals, we also allow them to do dishes or laundry, because that still helps us out and saves us time where we can focus more on the animals than doing laundry and dishes. So.
How often do you see some of the young kids that come and they start volunteering 14 to 16 and then they realize this is something I want to do with my life, and they kind of pursue vet tech or veterinary studies in college? Is that something you see pretty often?
Yeah, it's pretty common. I'm not going to say it's a huge number, but even one of our current animal care technicians started as a volunteer when she was under 18, because you have to be 18 to work with us. And so she started by volunteering, and then once she was old enough, she was like, hey, this is what I want to do with my life right now. So she's currently working with us. Her name is Mary. And we do a vet tech intern program with one of the local schools here in Grand Prairie. So their students come and shadow our vet staff several days a week to learn what it's like to work in a vet clinic, even though we're a smaller scale than an actual vet clinic. But I do career days a lot as well, and speak to the children about what we offer at the shelter, and that there's other jobs outside of just being a veterinarian that allows you to work with animals. And a lot of those kids are like, I want to be a vet, I want to work with animals. And so I tell them, just come start volunteering, get hands-on experience, and that'll just help you as you get older with your career choices. So
absolutely. And if anyone is, like you said, interested in snuggles here, or we have another puppy we'll bring on here in a moment as well, what's the best way to reach out to you to say, you had an adorable dog on Hog Heaven, I want to go home with that dog?
So unfortunately, we don't do any type of holds or anything like that. So if you're interested in adopting these guys, you just have to come on down to the shelter, and if they're still there, you can put an application and take them home with you that day. These guys have not been spayed or neutered yet, so they are actually not allowed to go home.
Okay.
They can be adopted as early as today. They just have to stay with us until they are spayed or neutered, and then they can go to their new forever homes. So it's you have to come down in person though to pick your animal. And even if these guys are adopted by then, we have around 120 dogs up for adoption right now. So there's plenty of other pups that might catch your eye and help you fall in love. Cats too.
Before I get you out of here, everyone always, when they're thinking of adopting a dog, they go for the puppy, right? Everyone wants to get a puppy, but I know you guys probably have some older adult dogs down there as well, and a lot of times it's sad, but they get overlooked, right? Because they're there for a reason is what people think. But in your experience, what's it like for those families who do make that decision to bring home a 2 or 3 year old dog, and what's it like for you to watch that dog finally make its way into another family?
So honestly, from the shelter worker aspect, watching our older dogs go home is probably the highlight of our days, especially for those ones that have stayed with us longer that we know are really good dogs and they just get overlooked and we don't know why. And so when they finally get adopted, we have a little walkway where we all are cheering and they walk down the walkway. Me personally, a lot of my guys are older dogs that I've adopted. Just that's my weakness, is the little older guys that might get overlooked because they are older. We do have several senior dogs, and I'm talking 13 years old, and sometimes they're there through no fault of their own. Sometimes their own owner has passed away and there's no one else to take them.
Sure.
And so it's, they didn't do anything wrong and they don't know what's going on, and they are just waiting for someone to see that they still have life in them and they can still love you and give you that home, and they appreciate it. The puppies and the small dogs, they get adopted real quick. That's never an issue, but our older guys, they need love too, and they definitely deserve it. So
real quick, one last time, where exactly are you guys located in Grand Prairie? So if anyone out there is interested in bringing home a new member of your family, we'll send you to the right place.
So we are located at 2222 West Warrior Trail here in Grand Prairie. And for those of you that may have visited us in the past, but not so recently, we did just undergo a 2-year expansion that was opened this past May. So if you haven't come since May, come down and check it out, because we have a whole new wing added to our shelter so that we are able to help twice as many animals now.
Fantastic. Before we get out of here, you brought someone with you who has a second puppy over there. I'd love if she would kind of hop into frame here. And what's the name of this second puppy we have here?
So this is Buddy. And Buddy is
maybe
actually...
Buddy needs to get Buddy, I think. Is what. We have an employee here named Buddy. I think maybe we might find someone to adopt Buddy if we push his buttons hard enough.
So Buddy and Snuggles are actually siblings. They came in together last night, and so they are both available for adoption right now. Oh, they're so cute.
Well, Snuggles certainly looks like he likes to snuggle, and I think you could find a very good bud and Buddy over there. Angellee, we appreciate you coming in and joining us here on Hog Heaven, and hopefully we can help find these 2 cute guys here a couple new homes.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's our pleasure. We'll be right back after this.
Attention AirHogs fans, have you still not gotten your 2020 season pass? Well, why not? For only $150, you get in the gate for all 50 home games, including playoffs. That's just $3 a game. It's affordable fun the whole family can enjoy. For more information on season passes or booking your next group outing, contact Zach or Kelsey at zlee@texasairhogs.com or karmond@texasairhogs.com. We look forward to seeing you in 2020.
Welcome back in on Hog Heaven. Tim Costello joined with Billy Martin Jr., the Director of Baseball Operations here for the Texas AirHogs. And Billy, we haven't had a chance to sit down and do this in quite some time. We did it really every day during the baseball season, but it's been a couple of months since you and I had a chance to sit down.
Well, it's been a busy couple of months. It just flew by like that after that long season, but here we are.
It's crazy the way the season goes, because from 10 a.m. to 5, the day drags. But then once 5:30 hits till 11 o'clock at night, it went by in a flash, and you're like, oh, my day is done, and the AirHogs won. And so it's kind of crazy where the season will both drag and go by in a flash, both at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember having our post-game talk at the end of the year, and it was like, it'd be nice to have a break, it'd be nice to have a little time to relax and recoup, but we'll be looking forward to spring in about a week.
You've already, I feel like, been looking forward to next season a little bit. We had several trades you made at the end of 2019 that had some PT NBLs attached to them, the players to be named later. And we've seen some of those names coming back, and I think AirHogs fans, rightfully so, have reasons to be excited with some of the players that we're getting back so far this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, obviously, in our league, things can change quickly. Guys can decide they're done, not do their off-season work. There are lots of variables that we can't control, but no, I think we've helped our club.
I think one of the guys that's going to help this ball club the most is going to be Christian Correa. Like you said, there's all sorts of off-season variables, but he just doesn't seem like a guy to me that's going to let those things get to him. He competes on the international level for his home country of Colombia, playing for their national baseball team. He was excellent last year with the T-Bones. Offensively, yes, but his ability to call a game, to keep a very good pitching staff in the game. He worked with a lot of different pitchers in Kansas City last year, and he worked effectively with all of them.
He's the whole package as far as I'm concerned. And you know what? I got to give most of the credit to that trade to our skipper, Chris Bando. He made that happen, and it was one of those no-brainers that we were both on the same page about. But he really made that happen, and it's going to help us. I think that kid's going to help us a lot. He's a Florida kid and spends his off season working out with a pretty good catcher by the name of Salvador Perez.
Not bad.
He's okay,
serviceable, right?
He only catches about 150 games a year, but yeah. So he not only is trying to make himself better, but he's always, I think, soaking a little of Sally up.
So the way we were able to make that trade happen is, really just 2 weeks left of the season. We sent Kansas City Stuart Imes. They had a hole in their lineup. They had just lost Chris Colabello, I believe, if I remember correctly. They're trying to find a power bat.
Lost him to. He went and played for, was it Team Italy?
I think you're correct.
Yeah, I think that's where Colabello.
So they were looking to fill that void, but 2 weeks left in the season. A lot of other leagues don't allow a trade that late into the year. That's one of the cool things here in the American Association. What is it like for you to be able to take a guy like Stuart Imes, who has been a loyal AirHog, right? This guy has gone above and beyond. He's taken his lumps for 2 years with this team. He's been a fan favorite with this team as well.
Absolutely.
But to be able to say, Stu, we appreciate everything that you've done. Go play playoff baseball here in 2019.
Well, and it's funny because you can look at it from any standpoint. Oh, gosh, how can you trade that guy? Part of the decision was doing him a favor, was letting him go play in a hitter-friendly park. He's been in our pitcher-friendly park forever. Let him go play in a playoff situation when we were clearly not going anywhere. Because at the end of the day, Stuart Imes is trying to get back in affiliated ball.
But even if he's not going to get there realistically, which, he's one of the older guys in this league, Stuart Imes has a chance to go play playoff baseball.
Sure.
And if this point in some of these guys' career, when they get above that side of 30, you don't know how many more seasons you have left. So to be able to give an older ball player, whether he can get back to the affiliated leagues is one thing or not, but to be able to go play playoff baseball again, whether it's the American Association or Major League Baseball, playoff baseball has a different feeling to it, period, and guys want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And you know what? We wouldn't want them on our team if that's what they weren't aspiring to do. And if anyone deserved it, it was Stu. He, the year before last, my opinion, I nominated him for the best defensive player in the league.
It was a fair nomination.
I thought it was
beyond
too.
Fair.
And then I don't think he thought he was really going to play this year. He kind of got a little out of shape, but as we watched, he worked himself back into shape, finished the year like the Stu that he was, took time on the mound where he could still pump it up to 90. He was a breath of fresh air, and it's funny because, he's a guy by nature that's a little bit negative, but because he couldn't be that way, having to be an American liaison to the Chinese, he had to carry himself a little differently in the clubhouse and try to be more positive guy and give off a more positive outlook. And I think that was good for him too.
When you look at, doing players a favor, right? This year you sent both Kevin Hilton and Jonathan Maroney to Winnipeg to try and get a chance to play in the playoffs. We mentioned the sending of Stuart Imes.
Mm-hmm.
We also, Brett Eimner had a chance to pitch in the Atlantic League Championship because we sent him over to the Skeeters.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that position yourself going into 2020 to be known as a team that's willing to do those guys a favor? Do you get different types of free agents wanting to come talk to you because they know Billy Martin Jr. looks out for my best interest at the end of the day?
I think we have a track record of proving that. And whether they know it or not, I'm certainly going to tell them as part of my sales pitch to get them to come here. Because we do. At the end of the day, we are going to try to do what's best for these guys. We obviously want to win. We want to do what's best for the team and the organization also, but these are human beings. And we're a second chance league, and that's what we're trying to give them all.
I think, too, you mentioned we're a second chance league, Billy. I think that's going to start to change here over the next 3 or 4 years, realistically. We see that MLB taking over the MILB, getting rid of possibly up to 40 affiliated teams. I think, realistically, we're going to see a lot more kids going straight from college to American Association who never even had that first chance. It's not a second chance league for them because they were overlooked from the beginning. You're going to get the Javion Randall type ball player who, he's a ball player. He can play at every level. He just doesn't do it in the orthodox way that you've seen at an orthodox school. Now his chance to go and show you he's a major leaguer, and we're going to get more of that, I think, in the next 4 to 5 years here in the American Association.
Well, and Jay's a great example. There's an area scout in this area called Gerald Turner, who has been around forever, and he so badly wanted to draft Jay out of college, but couldn't get his higher ups to take him seriously because of the school he was at.
He went to, I believe it was Jarvis Christian College.
I was going to say Jenkins.
It was Jarvis Christian College. I'd never heard of it.
I had not either.
But you know what? He hit 400 his senior year there, just like he hit 400 in this in the Pecos League, just like he hit 400 in the Pacific Association.
I believe he hit 400 for us the last month of the season. He is so athletic. He has power. He can run. He has a great arm. He's obviously a plus defender. To me, he's a five-tool guy that's being overlooked. But
I agree.
If he keeps doing it in our league, you're right. He'll get that opportunity. And with all these changes, that's got to be good for us.
Yeah, more guys are going to get their opportunity through the American Association and hopefully through the AirHogs, right? Because I don't think there's any other independent team out there who, at least this season, could tout their chests and go, we have 3 active major league players right now. Because the AirHogs do, or they did this season. The AirHogs had a pitcher pitching in the ALCS for the New York Yankees and James Paxton.
Who might be the reason they didn't move on to the next round, because they took him out.
Yeah.
In the third inning of his first start, right when he got perfect, when his command became pinpoint.
But he put that series back in Houston. He was brilliant in game with all the pressure in the world. You're down 3-1 in a series. You're a former independent baseball player, and you know what? You took the ball and you were a bulldog on the mound. And then Max Scherzer, another former American Association player, got the win in Game 1 of the World Series. So we're gonna continue to see independent baseball push the envelope, and I think it's going to be pushed even more as you lose draft rounds and as you lose affiliated stops.
Sure.
These kids are going to have to come straight out of UTSA and come play somewhere else because they're not getting that shot. You're going to have some big time talent coming through AirHog Stadium here in the next 5 years.
We got another interesting scenario to watch this year too.
With the Frontier and the
they've got that
Can-Am
combination,
League.
the Can-Am Pecos fusion, but no, the Atlantic League. Moving the mound back 2 feet. What's that going to do? How many pitchers are going to say, I think I'd rather go to the American Association and not risk my arm health moving back 2 feet?
The big time prospects that are looking to get back, I think for sure, we'll say that. Billy, let's take a quick break right here. When we come back on the other side, this has been a great conversation. I want to continue it a little bit more. We're joined with the AirHogs Director of Baseball Operations, Billy Martin Jr. We'll be right back with you on Hog Heaven after this.
Attention AirHogs fans, have you still not gotten your 2020 season pass? Well, why not? For only $150, you get in the gate for all 50 home games, including playoffs. That's just $3 a game. It's affordable fun the whole family can enjoy. For more information on season passes or booking your next group outing, contact Zach or Kelsey at zlee@texasairhogs.com or karmond@texasairhogs.com. We look forward to seeing you in 2020.
Welcome back in on Hog Heaven. Tim Costello joined with the Director of Baseball Operations, Billy Martin Jr. And Billy, we were kind of talking about all the different things happening right now in independent baseball. Let's put a quick pause on that and let's talk about all the things that are happening with you personally, because you have such a crazy regular season. How do you kind of take a step back and just say, it's the off season, let me have 2 or 3 weeks for BMJ before I get back out and do everything else?
You can't totally do that. You just get to relax in spurts. Sundays are a day for me that I try to do very little work stuff. I like to just be a fan. You know, I watch the Dallas Cowboys and cheer for them. I don't have a skin in the game. I watch my Texas Tech Red Raiders play on Saturday or something, but because even the World Series, as much as I love the game and I'm going to watch every baseball game I can, there's always a reason. You know, I live in Texas, so there's a part of me that wants to cheer for the Astros. The Astros fired 40 scouts 2 years ago, which made me angry because I'm a scout at heart, and I know what kind of lifeblood to the game scouts are. And so that made me mad. I also represent a guy who's on the Major League roster for the Nationals. So he may get a World Series payoff and a ring, and so I want him to do well. But I also am a big fan of Nolan Ryan, and Jeff Lunau's done a great job. But you know what? I love Mike Rizzo. And so there's so many factors for me that it's hard to be a fan and just get a cheer for a team. So at least on Sundays I can be a goofy football fan and cheer for my team. Go to my godson's church. My godson just started his own church, which is, I mean, I have to go or I'll probably have bad things happen to me, right? But so Sunday's my day to take off, but there's no real off time in baseball. You know, we're retooling for the AirHogs. I'm trying to get clients for the upcoming draft, whether it's this next June or the following June or with the new rule changes and the following August. Something's always changing, getting ready for the winter meetings. And it's a unique year. My father's up for a Hall of Fame vote this year at the winter meetings.
Fingers crossed, right? Because it's beyond about time, I think is the way to put that. We've talked about it before on the air. You know, one of only 2 managers to bring 3 different teams to the playoffs, I believe, is what we had talked about.
And he's taken 4.
Could go in as a player. Could have gone in as maybe possibly.
Well, as a World Series player.
Sure. Had a playoff resume that was worthy of some sort of enshrinement. As a manager,
that's
synonymous with the game. So I really I hope that they finally get it right this time, and you can take your first trip up to the Hall of Fame.
I've never been.
I know you're telling me you're saving it for when they let your dad in. So let's hope that this is the first time you head up there. But speaking of your dad in baseball, you had one of the, I think, probably most fun childhoods you could have. Growing up, literally every day of the summer, you're at a baseball stadium. How have you kind of taken what you grew up with, because you're a dad as well, you have 3 kids of your own, your daughter was just named to the homecoming court her senior year, so how do you make sure that they feel welcome up at the baseball stadium, but for them at the same time it's not they're here every day as a bat boy or whatever it is that you did every single day?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, as a kid growing up, you don't realize how lucky you are. I literally answered this question one day. a friend of mine whose father worked at the General Motors plant here in Arlington. And he's like, man, I wish my dad managed the Texas Rangers. Or actually, at the time, Dad was managing the Yankees. I wish my dad managed the New York Yankees. And I looked at him, I was about 11 or 12, and said, sometimes I wish my dad worked at General Motors with your dad. He looked at me like I was crazy. I said, you get to see your dad every night. You know, you get to talk to him, you get to hang out with him. I don't get that. Yeah. I get to see him on TV every night, but I don't get to spend time with him. And he looked at me funny, but then he got it. So, you know, and even going to the games, as much as I absolutely love the game, and like you can watch it all day long. The playoffs, it almost lets me down when it gets to the World Series because I like when there's so many games going on.
Now you just got one game to watch.
Yeah, dang it. But when you're 7 years old, when you're 5 years old, and you're at 81 home games, and your mom makes you sit still on a chair,
you probably couldn't think of another hot dog at that point, right? If I eat one more hot dog, I'm just going to lose it.
Oh, yeah, I could barely eat hot dogs now. I've eaten so many. But as a kid, just sitting still, I wanted to go play. Now, when Robbie Alomar, whose dad played for my father, was there, and he and I could run behind the bleachers and play stickball, you know, that was a blast. And but to sit still and watch the game when you're 4 years old, 8 years old, it could be a little monotonous, but love the game now when I get to go on the field, put a glove on, shag some balls. That was the good stuff. And the moment it really hit me, I was shagging balls in Fenway Park. I was about 14, 15. I had Thurman Munson's glove on, a catcher's mitt, in full Yankee uniform, visiting uniform in Fenway, and a ball hit off the green monster and made that, you know, that
loud thud, or, you know.
Yeah, that iconic thump that, you know, only the green monster makes. And I'm looking at the hand-operated scoreboard, and it hit me. I'm like, wow, Babe Ruth used to play in this outfield, and the DiMaggio brothers, and Ted Williams, and I'm getting them now, telling the story, the goosebumps, like I'm watching a Disney movie, right? And like the next fly ball, I was like shaky and nervous on, because wow, it really hit me how lucky I was to be his son and to be a part of all that stuff.
It really is. It's special that you were able to, you know, who else has hit balls off that wall? What other 15-year-old kid is sitting there playing balls off the green monster? And the answer is not many. When kids come out to our stadium, and I see you kind of thinking the same way of, what can I do to make that kid's day, right? When I was a kid, this is what I was able to do. How can I do this for this young man that I'm seeing here? Why is it still so important to you? And when you see a young kid at an AirHogs game, to make sure that that was his favorite game he's ever been to?
Because baseball is part of our history, in my opinion. Obviously, it's a big part of my life. But I think what's so unique about the game is the connection kids have with their fathers and grandfathers, and the game stays the same with all these changes, and now it's analytics and stuff. Still the same game.
Still got to get 27 outs across 9 innings. You still.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, 100 years ago, when players weren't as fast and didn't throw as hard and have these mechanics they do today, if the hitter hit a ground ball to shortstop in the hole, and he came and backhanded it, and he threw across the diamond, he'd just barely throw the guy out by this much at first base. Well, guess what? It's the same today. Yeah. With the ball hit harder.
The range is a little bit further, the runner's a little bit faster, the arm's a little bit stronger, but it's still a bang-bang play at first.
You know, it's like, wow, that Doubleday fella knew what he was doing when he placed the base that far from home plate.
I think what's crazy to me, too, is people can complain about the strike zone and all that stuff all they want. That's going to be tough. But more times than not, on that bang-bang play at first, the umpire's right. They get it right 95% of the time, I feel like, on that.
Oh, they're great.
On that deep of the hole, let it rip from short. The ear doesn't ever, the 1-2 of the glove to the foot to the bag, it's not wrong. Whatever they've been doing for 100 years still works, unless there's a wild throw trying to get a tag or something like that. But a close play at first where, you're hearing foot then glove or glove then foot, that method hasn't gone wrong across the 100 years.
No, I mean, look, and it is going to happen to where there is a tie. I know there's not allowed to be for umpires, but that happens sometimes, and it's so hard to get it all right. But I do like that they're trying to get it right. I don't want the umpires to be removed. I do kind of dig the whole TrackMan strike zone, only
Especially
because
in independent baseball or in the minor leagues where you can actually get not just the strike zone, I think is huge, but the tracking data that comes with installing
Absolutely.
that stuff, that's where it's really important.
and that's going to help the players get to the next level. But I think it's right. One thing that bothers me a little bit with the umpires having, some of them kind of have signature strike zones, whether that's on purpose or not. I don't think it is. I think it depends a lot. If the umpire lines up on the inside part of the plate, then he can't see this side quite as well. He's going to miss those. And then sometimes I think they start leaning towards the veteran a little bit when it's close.
Or, think of Maddox. When Maddox would make a start, right? The first inning, Maddox is working the black. You give him that, now he's an inch off the black. You give him that, now he's 2, now he's 3. Next thing you know, Greg Maddox is getting calls 6 inches off the plate because he's Greg Maddox. I don't think it's the same today as it was, in the 90s with the Braves, but you do get... You get the veteran call, right? Garrett Cole got a makeup call last night in the game on a strike 3 to get out of the inning. I thought the previous 3-2
He didn't even do a good acting job walking off there.
I thought the previous 3-2 pitch to Zimmerman should have been a strike, and then he gets the makeup call on Robles to get out of the inning. But still, if he's not Garrett Cole, he probably doesn't get strike 3 there.
Well, man.
It wasn't a great frame. It wasn't a great pitch.
No.
But because
he
he's
didn't
Garrett
even
Cole
do a great
in
acting
jam,
job. He
was pissed at himself. But you know what? He's Garrett Cole in a jam and he got the call. That still exists. It's going to exist. It's always going to exist. But
one thing they do, though, still is they will test rookies. Now, you will see an umpire make a call against a rookie and stare at him and see how are you going to react. One of my clients, in his first major league at bat, and this was a little while ago, he's now a first base coach and hopefully going to be a manager one day soon. His name's Stubby Clapp, and he's the
great baseball name, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
100% top 5 baseball name.
He's Stubby the Third, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And
did anyone have like a stub leg at one point, or?
Hey, he's such an interesting guy. He's a short, stocky guy, right? That also played junior hockey. Okay. So I mean, he's
pretty stout too.
Stout and tougher than nails. But Stubbs' first at bat in the major leagues, he came up in the Cardinals organization. He faced local Arlington, Texas, Todd Van Poppel in his first at bat, and I'll never forget it. He was rung up on strike 3 that was nose high, and got a standing ovation from the Cardinals fans because he'd won fan favorite at almost every level of the minor leagues. But it was unbelievable. It was like, wow, Yeah. And you're going to tell me that umpire didn't this? That was, what are you going to do, rookie? You going to show me? And that does bother me a little bit when that's an umpire making it about them, not doing your job. Blend in.
And I think that we're getting there. I mean, we've got the best that we could have at every level, and we do. I think what makes it tough nowadays, I was watching the game the other night, the square in the zone. When I was growing up as a kid watching baseball, they didn't put a square on the TV to show you what the strike zone should be. You watch the game, you're like, that looks a little bit outside, but whatever. But now when they put that square on the TV, it's just blatantly obvious when that one wasn't in that square and still got the strike zone, or the one that's in the square that doesn't get the call for a strike. It drives people crazy. When we've known for years, umpires have different zones. Some guys give the outside corner, some guys give the inside corner. As baseball fans, we just understand that. But as the casual fan just tunes into ESPN for a random game, they don't know what the strike zone in. That box helps, but it also drives people crazy at the same time. So
absolutely,
you're never going to make anybody happy. You're never going to make everybody happy. You go for as many as you can, and I think both AirHogs baseball and baseball as a whole is doing a great job of that.
But isn't that one of the beautiful things of the game too? That we can have these discussions. That's why I love that
first
the National
of many
League.
discussions, hopefully, here, by the way.
Absolutely, but that's why I love why the National League has the pitcher's bat, but they don't in the American League. People ask me all the time, well, what would you prefer? I like it just like it is, because I like for people to argue about it. I like for people to say, well, I like the National League better because the pitcher's hit. And who wants to watch a pitcher hit?
They're talking about it at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And same with this umpire controversy, same with TrackMan, same with any of this stuff. The fair pole, the foul pole, was this an error? Was that an error? If it were all cookie cut, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Exactly. Billy, we appreciate you joining us. Our first double segment here on Hog Heaven. We were happy to have you. Also, a big thank you to Angellee Vincent with Prairie Paws, who joined us to start the program as well. As always, if you're interested in joining myself and Zach Lee on Hog Heaven, reach out to Z Lee at TexasAirHogs.com. We're always looking for great community partners to join us here on Hog Heaven. I'm Tim Costello. He's Billy Martin Jr. We appreciate you joining us on Hog Heaven. We'll be back with you next week.